The Creepy Psycho Roommate Horror Stories. Story 1. The room down the hall. It started with an ad on Craigslist. A simple one. Room for rent. Quiet neighborhood. All utilities included. Female tenants preferred. Emily Carter had just moved to Chicago after a bad breakup and a draining job hunt. She wanted a cheap place, something temporary while she got back on her feet. The ad seemed harmless. She met the landlord, a quiet older woman named Mrs. Lowell, who smiled too politely, and a girl named Tara, the roommate who already lived there. Tara was odd, pretty in a washed-out kind of way, always wearing oversized sweaters and keeping her hair over her face. She spoke softly, laughed rarely, and had this way of staring, not with curiosity, but calculation. Like she was studying the angles of your face, memorizing something beneath the skin. Still, rent was cheap, and Emily didn't have better options. Emily unpacked into her tiny new room. Beige walls, one window, and a creaky bed. Tara came by with a cup of chamomile tea. "I always make tea for new roommates," she said. Her hands were trembling. Her nails were bitten to the quick. Emily smiled, thanked her, and took a sip. It was lukewarm. That night, she dreamed of someone whispering her name. Over and over. When she woke up, her bedroom door was cracked open, and she was certain she had locked it. Tara worked nights, or at least that's what she said. But Emily never actually saw her leave. She'd hear movement down the hall around 3 a.m., faint footsteps, the creak of floorboards outside her door. Once she woke up to the sound of humming. Tara's voice, soft and monotone, humming the same 3 notes, over and over. And over. Emily peeked into the hallway. The lights were off. The humming stopped. A few days later, Emily noticed her toothbrush was wet in the morning, though she hadn't used it yet. Her clothes smelled faintly of unfamiliar perfume, and she began finding strands of dark hair in her food. There was a 4th door in the apartment. One, Tara said, was just a storage room. The handle was always locked, but Emily started hearing something from behind that door at night, like faint scratching or breathing. Once she thought she heard her own name whispered through it. When she asked Tara about it the next morning, Tara's eyes went wide. "You heard that?" Emily nodded. Tara smiled slowly. Then, "You've been chosen." She said it like a compliment, like it meant something sacred. A week later, Emily woke up to a sound, the click of her bedroom door. Her lamp flickered, and there, standing by her mirror, was Tara, just standing there. In silence, Emily's breath caught. "Tara, what the hell are you doing?" Tara didn't move. Her reflection, however, smiled. Not Tara, just the reflection. It smiled, wide and unnatural, as Tara's real face stayed blank. Emily scrambled out of bed and flicked the lights on. Tara blinked, confused, like waking from a trance. "Oh," she whispered. "You shouldn't have seen that." Then she left the room. The next morning, Mrs. Lowell stopped Emily in the hall. "Tara has sleep problems," she said. "She's been through things. Try not to judge." But that night, the scratching behind the locked door turned into knocking. Slow, rhythmic knocking. Emily pressed her ear against the door. A voice whispered, "Let me out." Her hand almost reached the handle before she stopped herself. The air was cold, unnaturally cold. She turned around, and Tara was standing in the hallway watching her. "Don't touch that door," Tara whispered. Her voice was trembling. "That's where I came from." Emily didn't sleep that night. When dawn broke, she packed her things. But the front door wouldn't open. The knob refused to turn, as though sealed shut. She turned back toward the hall. The locked door was now slightly open, and something inside was breathing. The morning sunlight never came through the window that day. Emily stood by the front door for hours, twisting the knob, slamming her shoulder against it, but it didn't budge. The air inside the apartment felt heavy, thick, as if the building itself was breathing. When she finally turned toward the hallway again, the locked door, the one Tara warned her about, was open just enough to show darkness beyond. A faint scratching came from inside, then a whisper. "Emily." It wasn't Tara's voice. Emily's instincts screamed at her to run, but there was nowhere to go. So she did the worst possible thing. She stepped closer. Her phone's flashlight cut into the darkness. The storage room was smaller than she imagined, and it smelled of mildew and something metallic. Blood or rust. She couldn't tell. There were drawings on the walls and carved deep into the plaster. Circles, symbols, and hundreds of small, chaotic letters spelling the same word. Her. In the center of the room sat an old vanity mirror, cracked and cloudy, covered with fingerprints. Emily's light hit the glass, and for a moment, she saw a bomb face was reflected behind her. A pale woman, hair matted, eyes too wide. She spun around. Nothing. Then, in the reflection, the woman to smile down and reached forward, and Emily saw her own reflection start to grin back. Though her real face was frozen in terror, she stumbled out, slamming the door shut. That evening, Tara sat at the kitchen table, quietly slicing an apple. "You opened it, didn't you?" she said without looking up. Emily froze. "You mean the room?" "It was already open." Tara smiled faintly. "She wanted you to come in." "Tara, who the hell is she?" Tara's knife hit the table with a dull thud. "She's the first girl who lived here. The one before me. Before both of us." Mrs. Lowell had told Emily that Tara was the first tenant, but Tara's next words cut that lie apart. She used to sleep in that room, but when she died, she didn't leave. Tara looked up, her pupils blown wide like ink stains. "She comes out when she's lonely." That night, Emily set up her phone camera aimed down the hallway. She needed proof, to show someone, anyone, that she wasn't losing her mind. At 2:37 a.m., something moved. In the camera's grainy light, a figure crawled out of the locked room on all fours, slow, jerky movements like a broken puppet, its head tilted too far to one side, hair dragging across the floor. It crawled right up to Emily's bedroom door and pressed its face to the crack beneath it. Then it whispered softly like a child trying not to wake someone. "You're mine now." Emily woke up sweating, unaware of the camera footage until morning. When she checked it, the screen flickered, and the moment the figure appeared, her phone shut off on its own. When she turned it back on, the video was gone. Emily confronted Mrs. Lowell that afternoon. The old woman looked tired, almost frightened. "You shouldn't pry into things you don't understand, dear. What's in that room?" Emily demanded. "Who is she?" Mrs. Lowell hesitated, then whispered, "Tara wasn't the first girl. She was the second. The first one's name was..." She stopped, trembling. "Clara. She hung herself in that room 10 years ago. Her parents left everything as it was, and you just rented out," Emily shouted. Mrs. Lowell's voice cracked. "The house won't let me stop." The moment she said it, a loud bang echoed down the hallway. They both turned. The door to the storage room was wide open again, and Tara stood in front of it, her expression empty, her voice distant. "She's awake." That night, Tara came into Emily's room again, but this time, she was crying. "She's angry," Tara whispered, clutching her head. "She doesn't want you here." Emily tried to calm her down, but Tara's eyes rolled back, and she started laughing, a deep, guttural sound that didn't sound human. Her voice changed, lower, echoing. "She wants your body." Emily backed against the wall as Tara's hand reached for her. Her fingers were ice cold, nails cracked and bleeding. "Stop it. Tara, please." Tara's mouth opened, too wide, and a whisper escaped, layered with static and breath. "Let me see myself again." The lights flickered out. When they came back on, Tara was lying on the floor, unconscious. The mirror in the hallway was shattered, and written across the wall, smeared in something dark, were the words, "She's already inside." Emily sat by Tara's body, trembling. Somewhere behind the walls, she could hear faint humming again, the same 3 notes from her first night. This time, though, another voice joined in, a voice that sounded just like her own. Morning came, but the apartment remained dim, as though the walls themselves had swallowed the light. Emily sat beside Tara's bed, waiting for her to wake. The girl's breathing was shallow, uneven, each exhale leaving a faint mist in the cold air. Emily had dragged her there after finding her unconscious, but she hadn't stirred all night. When the clock struck 7 a.m., Tara's eyes snapped open. They were mirror silver. "Emily," she whispered. "She likes you." Emily staggered back. "Who, Clara?" Tara smiled, but the grin wasn't hers. It was too wide, the skin stretching. At the corners of her mouth, she wants to see how she used to look. And then Tara's hand moved to the cracked mirror on the wall. The mirror began to hum, a low vibration that rattled the floorboards. The cracks in the glass pulsed like veins. Emily could feel it pulling at her, a pressure building behind her eyes, forcing her gaze toward it. Inside the reflection, she saw herself, standing. But behind her reflection, a second figure appeared. A pale woman in a torn white nightgown hovering, her mouth whispering soundlessly. Emily turned around. Nothing there. When she looked back, the reflection smiled, while she did not. Then, in the mirror, her reflection stepped forward. The glass rippled like water, and Emily's heart stopped as the reflection reached out a hand through the surface and touched her cheek. It was freezing cold. Tara screamed behind her, thrashing violently, her voice layered with an older rasping tone. "She's breaking through!" Emily tried to pull away, but her hand stuck to the glass like glue. Her reflection leaned closer, its eyes now pitch-black voids. Then, the mirror shattered. When Emily opened her eyes, she was standing in a different place, a long hallway, lined with hundreds of mirrors, all reflecting nothing but shadows. The air smelled of rot and wet plaster. She turned to run, but each mirror flickered to life. Inside every reflection, she saw Tara, or versions of her, screaming, clawing at invisible walls. Then she saw Clara. The ghost girl's reflection stood closest, whispering softly, "You let me in." Emily's voice trembled. "Why are you doing this?" Clara tilted her head, smiling with broken teeth. "Because she let me starve. She watched me die in that room. She told me to be quiet, and now no one will sleep in peace." Emily's body began to fade, her hands turning transparent. "No," she gasped. "You can't." But Clara reached out, pressing her hand to Emily's chest. "I only need one of us." The world collapsed into glass. Mrs. Lowell placed a "for rent" sign in the window again. She had done this many times before. The police had ruled Emily's disappearance as missing under unusual circumstances. Tara, now catatonic, was taken to a psychiatric ward. But late at night, Mrs. Lowell would sometimes hear footsteps in the hall, 2 pairs, followed by laughter echoing faintly from behind the locked door. The next tenant, a young man named Ryan, arrived a month later. The first night, he noticed a crack in the hallway mirror. When he leaned close, his reflection blinked, even though he hadn't. Then a voice whispered from the darkness, "Welcome home." The camera pans slowly down the apartment hallway. Every light flickers in rhythm. 3 beats on, 2 off. The locked door at the end creaks open by itself, just a few inches. Inside, the vanity mirror glimmers faintly. 2 women stand within it, one pale and hollow-eyed, the other still half-human. Their hands touch the glass, waiting. As the lights finally go out, the last thing visible is a reflection smiling, but the room itself is empty. Then a soft whisper, "I'm here now." Story 2. The Girl in the Closet. Rain fell steadily against the cracked windows of the old apartment on Westfield Avenue when Naomi Clark first met her new roommate. The woman's name was Evelyn Frost, and she seemed at first utterly normal. Quiet, polite, a bit withdrawn. She had responded to Naomi's ad online about a week ago, claiming she'd just moved to town for work. Naomi was 25, a freelance graphic designer scraping by in a city that never slept. Rent was brutal, and after her previous roommate left suddenly, she was desperate to find anyone, who could cover half the bills. Evelyn arrived that evening with only one small suitcase. You didn't know me. Remembered the oddness of that. One suitcase for a supposed full move. No boxes, no furniture, not even toiletries. Just the case. Still, Naomi let her in. "The bedroom's down the hall," Naomi said, forcing cheer into her voice. "The one with the bigger closet. You're lucky. I got stuck with the one that barely fits a hanger." Evelyn smiled faintly. Her eyes, cold gray, almost silver, lifted to Naomi's, and she nodded. "Closet space is Important, she said softly. Something about the tone chilled Naomi. By the third night, Naomi began to regret her decision. It started with whispering. Late at night, when she was lying in bed scrolling on her phone, she would hear faint voices coming from the hallway, hushed, like a conversation through the walls. At first, she assumed Evelyn was on the phone, but when she asked about it the next morning, Evelyn simply said, "I don't make calls at night. I'm not really a people person." That should have been the first warning sign, but Naomi was too polite, too uncomfortable to press. Then came the footsteps. Every night, around 2:30 a.m., she heard slow, deliberate steps in the hallway, back and forth, sometimes stopping directly outside her door, and then came the sound of the closet door creaking open. Naomi's heart would race every time. The sound wasn't from her closet, she could tell. It came from Evelyn's room. One night, unable to ignore it anymore, Naomi got out of bed. The apartment was dark, only a sliver of moonlight slipping through the blinds. She crept toward Evelyn's door. It was open an inch. She heard the distinct creak of the closet door opening. Again, and then, a soft, gasping laugh. Naomi leaned toward the door, heart pounding. Inside, she could make out the faint outline of Evelyn's figure, standing completely still in the moonlight. Her back was to Naomi, and her closet door was wide open. Naomi squinted. There was someone else inside the closet. At first, she thought her mind was playing tricks on her, but no. She could see a pale arm, long dark hair, and a faint glint of eyes. A woman, standing inside the closet. Naomi clapped a hand over her mouth to stop a gasp. Evelyn didn't move. She just whispered something, too low to understand. Then the woman inside the closet smiled. A slow, jagged, unnatural smile, and vanished on into the darkness. Naomi stumbled backward, knocking over a floorboard. The noise made Evelyn turn sharply. Her face was completely blank. Couldn't sleep? Evelyn asked, her voice cold. Naomi stammered. "I thought I heard something." Evelyn tilted her head slightly, her eyes like ice. "Then you should keep your door locked." And she closed her bedroom door. Over the next few days, the apartment began to smell. Something rancid, like rotting meat mixed with bleach. Naomi couldn't locate the source. She checked the fridge, the trash, even under the sink. Nothing. When she asked Evelyn, the woman didn't even look up from her book. "I don't smell anything." But the odor got worse every night. On Thursday, Naomi finally decided to check Evelyn's room while she was at work. She didn't want to snoop, but she was scared. The moment she pushed open Evelyn's door, the smell hit her full force. The room was freezing, cold. The curtains were drawn. The only light came from the sliver under the closet door. Her chest tightened. She approached the closet slowly, one trembling step at a time. The smell was unbearable now. Sweet decay. And something else, like wet hair and mildew. Her hand hovered over the doorknob, and then, from inside, came a faint knocking. Knock, knock, knock. Naomi froze, and then, a voice, a muffled, hoarse, "Don't open it. Please!" Her heart seized. The next day, Naomi couldn't take it anymore. She called the landlord, demanding he check the apartment. But when he came by, Evelyn was gone. Her room was empty. The closet was open, and inside, there was a hole in the drywall, roughly the size of a person. Behind it was a small, hidden crawl space. Inside that space, they found about 3 Polaroid photos. One showed a young woman Naomi didn't recognize, bound and gagged. The second showed a closet, and the third showed Naomi, herself, sleeping in her bed. The police searched for Evelyn Frost, but they found no record of her. Not in rental databases, not in employment, not even in ID systems. It was like she didn't exist. Naomi moved out that week, but she couldn't sleep after that, because every night, at exactly 2:30 a.m., she swore she could still hear someone knocking on her closet door. Knock, 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 and a voice, faint but familiar, whispering, "Let me out." Story 3. The roommate who watched me sleep. When Ava Matthews had moved to the city of Portland, she was desperate for a place to live. The apartment she found wasn't perfect. Peeling wallpaper, creaky floors, and a faint smell of damp wood. But it was cheap. And more importantly, it came with a roommate. Her new roommate's name was Elena. She seemed quiet, almost too quiet, but kind. She greeted Ava with an awkward smile and showed her the spare bedroom. "I don't sleep much," Elena said softly. "So you'll have the place to yourself most nights?" That was fine by Ava. After working late shifts at the diner, peace was all she wanted. The first few nights went by normally, until Ava began to notice things. Little things. Her bedroom door, open when she swore she'd closed it. Her phone drained of battery every morning, even when she hadn't touched it. And one morning, she woke up to find a single hairpin, long, dark, and perfectly straight, lying across her pillow, Elena's hair. By the third week, the apartment had changed. The air felt thicker, and every night, between 2 and 3 a.m., Ava heard whispering. At first, she thought it came from Elena's room, a muffled voice, maybe a phone call. But when she got up to check, the hallway was silent, and Elena's door was wide open. The bed was empty. The whispering came again, this time from Ava's own room. She turned slowly, her heart pounding, to find the closet door slightly ajar. Something shifted inside. Ava froze, every instinct screaming to run, but before she could move, she saw a shape, the faint outline of someone kneeling inside her closet, head tilted, breathing softly. She flipped on the light, and it was empty. Determined to prove she wasn't imagining things, Ava set up her phone to record her room one night. When she watched the footage the next morning, her stomach turned to ice. Around 2:47 a.m., her door opened slowly. A shadow entered the room, crawling on all fours. The figure stood up, leaned over the bed, and watched her sleep for nearly 5 minutes. The shadow was Elena. Her face was pale, her eyes wide and unblinking. She whispered something over and over again, but the words were impossible to understand. And then, she did something even worse. She leaned down and sniffed Ava's hair, before crawling back out of the room. Ava confronted her that evening. "Were you in my room last night?" Elena smiled, slow and unnatural. "You talk in your sleep," she said. "It helps me rest." That night Ava couldn't sleep. Every sound made her flinch. At around 3 a.m., she woke to the sound of soft breathing. Right beside her bed, she tried to move, but she couldn't. Her entire body was frozen. Something was on her chest, heavy, cold. In the faint light, she saw Elena, crouched above her, eyes open too wide, her grin stretching unnaturally. "You shouldn't keep your eyes open when you sleep," Elena whispered. "They see too much." Ava blinked, and suddenly Elena was gone. The weight lifted, but when she turned her head to the mirror across the room, Elena's reflection was still there, watching. The next morning, Ava packed to leave. She couldn't stay, but as she went to grab her shoes near Elena's door, she noticed something strange. A locked trunk at the foot of the bed, slightly open. Inside were photographs, hundreds of them. Everyone was of Ava sleeping, eating, working at the diner, some taken from across the street, some from inside her room, and one taken just hours ago, of her sitting up in bed, staring at her own camera. She looked closer. The photo was taken from behind her. Even though she'd been alone, Ava ran. She didn't look back. When police arrived later that week, the apartment was empty. No trace of Elena, no signs of a struggle, only one thing remained, a single photograph taped to the inside of Ava's old closet. It showed 2 women sleeping side by side. Both looked exactly like Ava, and beneath it, written in red ink, were the words, "She finally sleeps when I do."